Well, hello everybody. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Um, my name is Laura Dankoff and I'm a nurse practitioner, and this is called your Embody Your Feminine Power event. Myself and several of my menopause sisters from menopausesisters.com, we do a workshop once or twice a year to help women navigate the changes that occur before, during, and after menopause. And a lot of women feel like they're not in control of this situation. But I'm here today to tell you that you are in control. You just need to know what steps you need to take to get there, and to believe in yourself, and to be in control of your own health. So during today's presentation, I hope to inspire you, to help you believe in yourself, and to activate change within your life. So as we go along here today, you're going to learn a whole lot about what steps you can take, not only to improve your health, but also your hormonal balance as well. So you're going to learn about the 6 root causes of hormone imbalance and what you can do to get things back on track. So many women like yourself are suffering from fatigue and irritability and difficulty with sleep and changing your menstrual cycles, or after menopause, maybe you're not having your periods anymore, but you're still having night sweats and hot flashes, and you just don't feel like yourself. And this can occur up to 10 years even before you get into menopause, and for some women this lasts for many years after menopause. So I hope by the end of this you're going to learn to love yourself by learning what is going on with your hormones before, during, and after menopause. I want you to open your heart to self-love and healing of your mind, body, and soul. And I want you to feel validated and embody your own feminine power, that you're not crazy, there is something going on, and there is something you can do about it. And by doing this webinar today, I hope it inspires you to engage with other women, that you're not in this alone. If you share your stories, you can help each other. And if you love what you hear today, please, I encourage you to encourage other women to come and listen to this, or visit us over at menopausesisters.com. We also do usually a weekly blog talk radio show where we talk about a different subject related to hormones and the perimenopause and menopause years. So I want to start off with this quote here. You may have weathered some rough waters to get here, but it's time to find your own path. I felt intuitively guided to just come up with this quote for you today, because we've all had different things happen to us in our life that help shape who we are, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So again, you may have weathered some rough waters to get here, but it's time to find your own path, not what other people expect of you or want of you. It's time to really tap into what you're longing for, what you're being called to, what is your passion, and that's going to help you on your healing journey. So what you're going to learn today is you're going to be able to identify the symptoms of hormonal imbalances. You're going to discover the 6 root causes that contribute to hormone imbalance. You're going to learn what tests you may need to assess your hormones. And you're going to discover what you can do to start supporting your hormones and hopefully having greater vitality and improved energy, sleep, mood, and hopefully get rid of some of those hot flashes and night sweats as well. So does this feel like you? You go to your healthcare provider, you try to tell them your story and what is going on, and you're wondering, am I going crazy? Is this my hormones? They quickly take a few notes, and unfortunately what can happen is say, okay, we'll run a few tests, and Maybe you just are depressed and let's hand you an antidepressant. And they send you on your way and tell you to follow up. Do you really feel like that's helping? That's giving you any answers? Do you feel like you have a Prozac deficiency or Lexapro deficiency or a Fexer deficiency? These are some of the medications that may be prescribed for many women, thousands of women, that are experiencing really, truly hormonal imbalances that need to be addressed at the root. Now, it's normal for hormones to get out of balance to a certain degree. It can't be helped. And that is partly because of the lifestyle that many of us live. You're working a job, you maybe are taking care of aging parents, you may still have kids at home, you may have a job you dislike, we're eating on the run, we're eating too fast, we're not getting enough sleep. And so that is a perfect storm to set you up. It is normal for hormones to also start to go down as we get older. But there can be some things that you're going to learn that can help you optimize your hormonal imbalances. And at the end of the program here today, I'm going to share with you other ways that you can further explore what you can do to get your hormones back into balance and increase your feeling of I'm not going crazy, and you aren't going crazy. If you know what's going on, you can help fix it within yourselves. You just need to have the tools by which to do that. So let's start out with what are some of the symptoms associated with hormonal imbalances? Are you feeling tired, moody, irritable, sad, sleep deprived, fat, have breast tenderness, have lost your sex drive, have menstrual irregularities, and have digestive problems? Maybe you're constipated for the first time in your life. And if you're constipated, your body's not detoxifying well. And you might be thinking to yourself, is that what I have to look forward to as I age? If this is what I have to look forward to, how can I go on living the rest of my life feeling this way? Here's a very busy diagram, but I just want to go over some things here. This is the courtesy of the Institute of Functional Medicine. It was developed by Dr. Anna Kabeka, a wonderful gynecologist who has helped a lot of women as well. But what you can see here on this diagram is there's a whole lot of symptoms that can be associated with imbalances in your hormones before, during, and after menopause. And quite frankly, I'm starting to see these very disturbingly in women in their late 20s and early 30s. So I definitely feel there is not only a dietary influence, but an environmental influence that's contributing to some of these symptoms. So let's go over some of this here. And feel free to take notes as we go along. I think that's important. So let's take anxiety, for instance, there up in the top left. Behind the word anxiety, you see the letters E, P, T, C, and TH. So what those stand for are some of your hormones, including estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, and your thyroid hormone. So how many of you have gone into your health practitioner and says, I'm anxious and I don't know why? Now, there can be a lot of things that contribute to anxiety. Certainly stress can be one of those, neurochemical imbalances, diet, but also the hormones. So a lot of women in the perimenopause and menopause years begin to experience anxiety when they hadn't before. So anxiety in relationship to hormones can be due to an increase in estrogen, a lowering of progesterone, and those two things can happen in those perimenopause years where you get estrogen dominance, where there's an imbalance. The progesterone often falls faster than the estrogen. You can also have a lowering of testosterone, an increase in cortisol, and decreased thyroid function. Consequently, you can begin to experience anxiety. So if we can get those hormones back into balance, lo and behold, maybe your anxiety will improve and you don't need to be stuck on Prozac or Lexapro, or some of these other antidepressant anxiety medications, let alone the epidemic of benzodiazepines like Xanax and clonazepam and lorazepam that are commonly prescribed to use to treat acute anxiety symptoms. Now, there's a time and a place for any of that, but don't you want to know the why? Don't you want to know the root cause? So let's look at another one. Hot flashes are very common, and you'll see that over in the third column. If you just scroll down there, you'll see hot flashes. So what causes hot flashes? This can be to a high or low estrogen, a low progesterone, and a low testosterone. Now we're going to talk a little bit later about some things you can do for some of these symptoms that you can be having. Another one is fatigue is very, very common. And certainly hormones alone don't necessarily cause all of the symptoms you see here, but for the purposes of today's presentation, we're going to look at what hormones are out of balance, potentially with some of the symptoms you may be experiencing. So for fatigue, it can be any of the hormones can be out of balance. Something that you don't see that also can contribute to fatigue: stress, not sleeping, food sensitivities, eating too much sugar. And something to be aware of is if your diet isn't healthy and you're stressed out, you're going to have hormonal imbalances. So not only just look at the hormones, but back it up, and we have to look at some of these root causes. So speaking of, what are the 6 root causes of hormone imbalances? It's a balancing act, as you can see here. So these can include diet, environmental pollutants, your gut health or digestive health, exercise or lack of exercise or even too much exercise, poor sleep, and stress and emotions. So let's look at each one of these individually. Let's start with diet. The standard American diet is, quite honestly, sad. Just what standard American diet stands for, sad, and it truly is sad. Most people, or not most people, but I'd say the majority of people out there today are stressed out. They're eating convenience foods. They're eating out a lot. And the problem with that is you're getting a lot of additives, chemicals, colorings, processed foods, and you're not eating real food. A better representation for optimal health is this food pyramid here. So what you see at the bottom, and this is based on the Mediterranean diet. There are all kinds of diets out there, but this has a lot of research backing up its claims for overall health and decreasing your risk of chronic disease and even hormonal imbalance. So the bulk of our diet should actually come from raw or lightly steamed, non-starchy vegetables, such as you see here, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, spinach, which is high in iron and vitamin C. A lot of women tend to be a little iron deficient, particularly around perimenopause, because their periods are so irregular and can be heavy, and they can have them more frequently. Also cabbage and antioxidants in tomatoes and peppers and beta carotene and carrots. So the bulk of the diet should really come from here. And this is probably the least thing that people are eating is their non-starchy vegetables, and they're packed with nutrients. That is followed by fruits, particularly things like berries and citrus fruits and apples and kiwi, and so great sources of antioxidants as well. And then your beans and legumes. A lot of people can get gas and bloating from these, so a good thing to do is to soak them first, and this can help break down, I believe it's called phytic acid, and that may help with that. This is followed by healthy fats, such as nuts and avocados are a great source here. And then you have a little bit of like brown rice and quinoa, which is a higher protein grain. I really highly would recommend elimination of gluten from the diet, just because so many people react to the protein in there. You may not have celiac disease, but you could have unknowingly have a gluten sensitivity, or just is general. Most people have trouble breaking down the protein in gluten-containing grains. Not to mention, we could get into the issues of genetically modified organisms, and pesticides and herbicides, which sadly many of our grains are laden with. They're sprayed with these chemicals, and those chemicals get passed on to us. Potatoes, you see your white potato in this diagram. Sweet potatoes certainly would be my first choice over a white potato. And then healthy fats. You want organic foods all the way through as much as you possibly can, because that decreases the pesticide residue and burden on the body, which our livers have to deal with. I'm not a big fan of milk for the same reason. For gluten, we have a hard time breaking down that protein, casein protein. A lot of people are sensitive to that. If you are going to do milk, please make sure it's organic, because you have to think about, with your meats and your dairy, you think how that animal was raised. Is that animal getting hormones and steroids or antibiotics? And all of those things get passed on to us. Are they eating genetically modified corn? That's why grass-fed is always going to be the best when it comes to things like your red meat, and that you want organic free-range eggs as much as possible if you're going to do that. And then as far as healthy fats, that would be extra virgin olive oil, and also cold pressed virgin coconut oil. Coconut oil has so many medicinal properties to it. If you get in a couple tablespoons of coconut oil a day, it may help with your hormone balance. It's going to help if you have viruses, bacteria, or fungi in the body. It helps our brains. Our brains are fatty. It can help with your memory, which a lot of women around menopause are having brain fog, a disconnect, and that can be because of the estrogen being low. So if we kind of back up here to this slide here and see if we can find memory loss on there. See, loss of memory that can be due to estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, and thyroid. All the hormones can be out of balance. But extra virgin coconut oil is a great thing to add into your diet. And then if you're having fish, ideally it should be wild caught, be my recommendation. And salmon is probably one of the best sources. And then at the very tip top there, you see basically what most people are eating the greatest. So that's why we're so kind of messed up, I guess, you know, with the increase in obesity and chronic disease, because the bulk of people's diets are coming from meat and cheese and sugar, and the very things that we should rarely have. So as you look here, we go back down to the bottom. It says 30 to 60% of our food intake should come from vegetables, non-starchy vegetables. I would put that in at least a third or greater. This is followed by fruits and nuts at 10 to 40%, seeds or grains at 10 to 40%, seeds, nuts, avocados at 10 to 40%, whole grains at 20%, and healthy fats at 10%, and then rarely red meat, cheese, or sweets. So some reports out there on a Mediterranean diet said you could have red meat, grass-fed, maybe once a week. Okay, environmental pollutants. How many of you live in an industrial area? And even if you don't live in an industrial area where there may be spraying crops, if you live in an agricultural area, all of those things get dispersed into the air and we breathe them in. And if our bodies don't detoxify well, these things can build up in our systems, and we all have heavy metals in our bodies just from even car exhaust. babies today are born with, oh, I can't remember, it's several, I think 100, it's 70 to 100 or somewhere in there, don't quote me on that, toxins in cord blood when a baby's born that they're getting from their mother. You know, how many women would knowingly have this stuff in their bodies? The problem is they don't know it's there. These things are not being looked at. They're not being checked. And in the Industrial Revolution in this country, back in the 40s and 50s, the amount of chemicals in our environment has exploded. There are more chemicals in this environment than any of us can possibly deal with. And the impact on us is great. So we can't escape it. So what can you do? You work on sweating through exercise. You work on eating a healthy, clean diet of organic foods. And you eliminate your exposure as much as possible. One other way that women unknowingly are exposing themselves to heavy metals and disrupting chemicals is through their makeup. And this is a little self-promoting here, but Beauty Counter, but I truly believe in this company. They have a conscience. They care about what goes into their makeup. And their whole premise of this company was built on eliminating the toxic chemicals from the makeup. And so they encourage you to break up with your makeup. This is something I do promote. I rarely promote anything directly unless I believe in it passionately. And therefore, you know, if you're interested in this, you can go to beautycounter.com/Laura Dankoff, and you can visit my Beauty Counter site, or just visit menopausesisters.com and you'll see it there as well. But back to Beauty Counter. In this country, and this is deplorable, only about 11 harmful ingredients have been banned from being put into our makeup in this country since the 1930s, 1938 as a matter of fact. In Europe, they have banned over 1,400. But for some reason, in the United States, it is felt by the powers that be that it's okay to pollute our bodies with harmful chemicals. I'm sorry, but in my opinion, it's just deplorable. And these things need to be taken out, because unknowingly, in an effort to be beautiful, you also are putting toxins on your skin. Your skin's a very porous surface, and this stuff gets absorbed into the body. There's a lot of lipsticks that contain lead, and you're putting that on your lips potentially several times a day. So Beauty Counter has banned over 1,500 chemicals and additives and colorings from being put into their products. So they do everything they can to make these products as safe as possible. So I'd encourage you to start fresh, break up with your makeup, and take a look at this company and their products. Now let's look at gut health. That's the next thing on one of our 6 root causes. So we've looked at diet, we've looked at environmental toxins, but probably one of the first places to start, aside from diet, and diet is going to impact your gut health. So it's very important that whatever we put in our mouth is going to impact our digestive health. The other thing that's going to impact our digestive health is stress. So did you know that the majority of your serotonin, this is a neurochemical that affects your sleep and your mood, is actually produced in your gut. It also can be impacting your ability to lose weight. So if your gut isn't healthy, one, you're not going to make enough serotonin. And why is that? Because you have to be able to effectively absorb the nutrients in your food. So in your diet, you're going to have amino acids, and you're going to have B vitamins and minerals. And those have to work together through their nutrient absorption to help make your not only your neurochemicals like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and so forth, but also your hormones. So any kind of stress is going to lower what's known as your immunoglobulin A or IgA level in the digestive tract. And when that's lowered, so is your immunity. Thereby, inflammation can occur, and with inflammation comes decreased nutrient absorption. Many of us are chronically inflamed. So in order to help our digestive tracts, it is important to work on stress and eating a healthy diet. Now, as a result of a lot of this chronic stress, poor diets, we have developed food sensitivities. I see people every day that are suffering from food sensitivities. Now, they develop food sensitivities because the immune system in the gut has been lowered for various reasons. So for a while, helping to take out the foods you're sensitive to, which can be very healthy foods. I mean, I hear it all the time. People come in and say, I'm eating a healthy diet, but I don't feel any better. It could be because the very healthy foods that they're eating can actually be creating some of the inflammation. They can have symptoms that aren't even digestive related, but let's say they are. This can be heartburn symptoms. It can be diarrhea or constipation or gas or bloating. But if they aren't having those symptoms, it could be simply fatigue and brain fog and joint pain and headaches and rashes. So, or sinus issues. A lot of people have sinus issues, and that could be a source of what's due to food sensitivities. Now, this isn't well appreciated by the conventional medical community. But if you can find a practitioner, like myself, who does food sensitivity testing and eliminate the foods that you're sensitive to, allow that immune system in the gut to heal, and some of those foods you will eventually be able to bring back into your diet, not to mention you'll feel a whole lot better. Now, sometimes you're going to need something more. If you've been on antibiotics or anti-inflammatories, or even the stress, or say maybe you only have a parasite or a bacteria overgrowth, this can further compromise your digestive health and your overall health. And this would require, seeing a health practitioner that's ideally, you can see your digestive doctor, but also sometimes it's better to move beyond that and get some functional diagnostic testing done to look at the overall gut health and what's known as your microbiome. So probiotics can help, but you really want to ideally test and not guess as to what's going on. If this isn't available for you, certainly you can do a food elimination diet. Commonly, the foods taken out in food elimination diet start with gluten, dairy, soy, eggs, and corn. That's gluten, dairy, soy, eggs, and corn. Now, I've had people take those out and they still don't feel better. Some of the healthy foods they could be eating, maybe the ones they're sensitive to, like strawberries or spinach or cauliflower or blueberries. I mean, it's all over the place. So it would be nice to know what those are so you can start healing. But just know food sensitivities can change over time. So maybe you're doing well, but later on you start to be symptomatic again. It's good to get retested. All right, exercise. Exercise is very important to your hormone balance. You might be saying, I'm too tired to exercise. I don't have time to exercise. I hear this all the time. And we can make all kinds of excuses as to why we can't exercise. And, it just means maybe, it's too overwhelming to add that into your life just because you can't even function. It's important to start somewhere with some of these root causes. Do I feel like you can do it all today? No. But you need to start somewhere. So maybe you start with exercise. Maybe you start with just walking 10 minutes a day. You get up 10 minutes sooner and you walk, or you lift some free weights every other day. Maybe you do it before you go to bed at night. Ideally, it's best to exercise in the morning if you can. But there's got to be a place in your day. If you can sit down to watch TV for an hour at night, you have time to exercise. You just need to be honest with yourself about it. Exercise is good for your hormones as well. If we decrease fat mass to muscle mass, you're going to lessen your chances of having estrogen dominance and that midsection weight gain. But trust me, there's a lot of women out there that are exercising and they can't get rid of that midsection weight gain, and that has to do with estrogens and cortisols and something known as leptin resistance, and there's other hormones that can be impacting this, not to mention your gut health. So there's a lot of things that can go on here that is very frustrating, and a lot of women are experiencing weight loss resistance, and that's a very complex thing for another talk. But just start somewhere. The more you do these things, the better. By exercising, you also encourage the movement of your lymph fluid throughout your body. You have lymph nodes everywhere, and lymph stagnation can increase your risk of health issues as well. Exercise also helps to encourage peristalsis, or the movement of your bowels, so that you can have regular bowel movements. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Yoga is a great way to exercise for a lot of reasons. It helps move your lymph. It helps with stress. It helps increase strength and flexibility. You don't have to be a marathon runner. In fact, I wouldn't encourage that, because quite honestly, over-exercising, when women's adrenals are often very stressed at this time in their life, will become more stressed. And I've seen where that can backfire on you. So set a plan, make some goals for yourself. It's hard to change things and to make them a habit. And that can occur within, say, 4 to 12 weeks, that you can make it a habit. Some people say 12 to 14 days. But just start somewhere. Sleep. Sleep is a huge problem for a lot of women when their hormones are changing. And part of the thing is, this is complex. It's just not the hormonal imbalances, it's the neurochemicals become out of balance, this amount of stress that's going on. Staying up too late will cause an imbalance of your normal circadian rhythm, which has to do with your sleep-wake cycle, which is impacted by cortisol. So this is a very difficult one. Many women, I hear them saying, I'm going to bed at midnight and I'm getting up at 4 in the morning. Well, that's never good. That's not sufficient amount of sleep. We should be getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. A thing that's important to know here is that our adrenal glands that make some of our hormones, make our cortisol, affect our mood and our energy, are produced by those adrenals, and those adrenals do their repairing between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. With adequate sleep, if we're sleeping during the night, our bodies are also detoxing. So this is a huge priority. Losing even 1 hour of sleep a night can increase your risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and the like, not to mention hormonal imbalances. And some women would say, well, how do I do that? I can't sleep. I wake up every night at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, like clockwork. This has to do with the hormones again, and our liver is detoxifying. Certainly drinking that glass of wine before you go to bed at night to help you relax is going to create problems, because it's going to wake you up. You're going to have hot flashes. It's going to disrupt your detoxification process. So that glass of wine, it can be part of the problem. Eating too late, not doing some relaxation before you go to bed. Do some slow deep breathing exercises, or get in a bath with Epsom salts, which are high in magnesium. Magnesium can help you. Understanding the various things that can impact your sleep is important. So the first thing you might try to do for a change is, if you're going to bed at 11:30, try to get to bed at 11 and eventually try to back that up to 10 o'clock. Now, if you're having trouble waking up in the middle of the night, there are various herbal things that we can try to help that, that are fairly innocent. Starting with magnesium is a perfect one. Magnesium is very important to the body, and I think it's involved in like over 300 functions in the body. But it also can help with sleep. It can help increase with your bowel, keep your bowels regular and what have you. Maybe drinking a cup of passion flower tea before you go to bed. Some women have to resort to sleeping pills just to get them back on track, but that leaves you in a vicious cycle, and there are a lot of risks associated with sleeping pills long term. So even your diet, one thing that I'm seeing more and more of is people that are having trouble with anxiety and sleep. They may actually have what's known as histamine intolerance. So in foods that we eat, some foods are high in histamine, and you may have trouble breaking down the histamine in the body. So maybe even trying a low histamine diet, believe it or not, may help with your sleep. So knowing what your cortisol levels are, or your hormones, certainly low progesterone can affect sleep. It can also contribute to anxiety as well. So if your progesterone's too low, that can affect sleep. So if we know what some of these root causes are, we can start addressing them, and it's going to be individualized for each person. One of the most impactful things to our overall health, aside from our diet, is stress and emotions. I'd like to share these very important quotes with you from Dr. Lisa Rankin, a well-known physician in the field of functional and natural medicine. She stated, "If you're suppressing your emotional experience, then you are violating your soul. Over time, that constant violation turns into a sort of soul sickness that can lead to physical illness, depression, anxiety, all of these other manifestations." That is so important to know. Stress and emotions are at the root of every single disease. There are other things that impact it, but there is always an underlying stress or emotional component. For instance, many people, if you were to ask them, and this is never asked, but when you develop, cancer or heart disease or diabetes or something like that, think back to 5 years on average before the disease presented itself. What happened 5 years prior to that approximately? There's often an emotional trigger, a stressor, that sets up the stage for these things to happen. It's pretty much what she's telling you here. You need to nurture your soul, live in purpose. She goes on to say, what is your soul feeling called to do? I want you to sit with that for a minute. As women, and one thing I want you to get out of this, the name of this webinar is Embody Your Feminine Power. This one statement alone can help you get started. Yes, I want you to work on diet and exercise and what have you. But maybe just start with this statement. What is your soul feeling called to do? Write it down. Then the next question to ask yourself is, what is the status of your relationships? Are they good? Are they difficult? Do you have energy suckers in your life that just are weighing you down, that they're negative? It may be hard, but it might be necessary for your own health to cut the ties with those negative energy people. Then ask yourself, do you feel loved in your life? Do you feel loved in your life? Now, you may be thinking this has to be with a spouse or family members or friends. But you know what? It starts with yourself. Do you love yourself? If you don't love yourself and care for yourself first, it's hard to express that love with others. It's hard to heal yourself if you don't first love yourself. Marissa Peers, a well-known international therapist, recommends that people just put on their mirrors, on their refrigerators, everywhere they can possibly put it, just put up, I am enough. Start each day and each night end it with stating, I am enough. Self-love is so important, because when you have people criticizing or ridiculing you, which that's always going to happen, that's their problem, not your problem. And once you know that you are enough and you love yourself, those things don't matter anymore. They don't have an influence on you. You don't carry around that as part of your emotional baggage or your story anymore. You let it go. Next, Dr. Rankin says, wants you to ask, what is your body saying no to? What is your body saying no to? So many of us are living in the expectations of others, what others expect us to do or say or be. Start asking yourself, is my body saying no to this? Maybe it's changing a job or letting go of relationships or not going to certain functions or staying in certain organizations because you don't feel called to do that. It's an expectation, and maybe it's time to let it go. And then what does your body need in order to heal? This is huge. And I really encourage you to take that and sit with it. Go, stand out in the grass in your bare feet, get grounded, and ask yourself, what does your body need in order to heal? This can be so empowering as women. So as you embody your feminine power, I want you to ask yourself, what does your body need in order to heal? All right, now that we've gone through that, let's look at hormone testing. So one of the things you want to do is try to figure out what the root cause is, certainly to some of your symptoms. One way to do that is start with testing. Here are some common tests that can be done to look at your various insight into your hormones. Certainly cholesterol is important. Did you know that all of your hormones, your progesterone, your estrogens, your testosterone, and your DHEA, not all of your hormones, your cortisol, these are all made from cholesterol. So a lot of your hormones are made from cholesterol. So when people go on cholesterol-lowering drugs and they tank out their cholesterol, what do you think is going to happen to the hormones? They're going to tank as well. So we need some cholesterol. It's vitally important to our survival because the downward stream effect of all the hormones are being driven down towards cortisol, and we cannot live without cortisol. Know your vitamin D level. Vitamin D is a pro-hormone, and it's on every cell of the body and is very important to our immune health. There's actually been a study that shows that women who have breast cancer, Those that are more apt to survive have optimal vitamin D levels. It's very important to our immune system. So please get your vitamin D levels checked. A normal reference range for vitamin D is 30 to 100. Optimal, I'd say, is 50 to 75. Just don't take it without, I suppose you could take 2,000 IUs of vitamin D3 a day and not overdose on that. Otherwise, if you're thinking of taking more than that, you really need to have your levels checked. There is a happy spot for anything. You can overdo anything. There's a yin and a yang, a balance. As we saw in the teeter-totter earlier with looking at the 6 root causes, everything has to work in unison and in balance. Cortisol, that affects your sleep-wake cycle, your energy, your mood. Ideally, it would be great to do saliva testing to look at this, because then you can get your cortisols throughout the day and night, not just a spot check. DHEA, 17-OH progesterone. 17-OH progesterone breaks down into cortisol. Your secretory IgA, that's the immune system in the gut I was talking about. FSH and LH are the hormones coming from the brain that stimulate ovulation and can help you know when you're in menopause. Gliadin antibodies, this is gluten. Progesterone. Did you know that you have 3 estrogens? So when a blood test is done, you're probably only getting the estradiol, and you're missing the estrone and estriol. Estriol is actually a very protective hormone. Then thyroid function. A lot of times when people go to their health provider, they're only checking a TSH. That's the part that's coming from the brain. They're not checking what's happening at the level of the thyroid or in the peripheral tissue or liver. That's why you need to know things like your free T4, your free T3. What are your thyroid antibodies? This could tell us if you have Hashimoto's, which is a condition where the thyroid's more inflamed that can lead to hypo or hyperthyroidism. What's your reverse T3 and your thyroglobulin? So these are some different blood tests that can be done, but also I would prefer or recommend that your cortisols, your DHEA, your estrogens, and progesterone be looked at in either saliva or through urine metabolite testing. Because when you look at it, your hormones strictly in the blood, that's looking at more of the bound hormone and not the free, all the free hormone levels, which are really the ones that are impacting you. So let's look at different types of ways you can support your hormones. Now, I have several things listed here. First and foremost, you need to be addressing the root causes before resorting to any of the other things that I have listed here. So once you have done that, and ideally you've tested as well, then you can start to explore some of these other methods. And I go into these methods in more detail in my 30-day challenge to thriving and surviving menopause, which I'll be talking to you about here shortly. Now, there are 3 primary ways that most people may or may not be familiar with as far as hormone replacement therapy goes. There's the HRT, which is the synthetic hormones. There is the BHRT, which is the compounded hormones. And there are homeopathic remedies as well. With any of these, I would first and foremost recommend that you get your hormone levels checked and not take any of these, whether they're prescription or over the counter, without knowing your hormone levels. And then if you start them, that you're guided by a health practitioner that's trained in monitoring this, and that you get them checked regularly. They are not risk-free. Well, the homeopathy, I'd say, is on the risk-free zone, but the other 2 definitely not. So compounded hormones, everybody metabolizes those differently, and some women do fine with them, other women don't, and they don't metabolize them well, and they can build up, and they have a greater hormonal imbalance than what they started with. So they're not risk-free. There are going to be some people out there in the natural medicine community that are prescribing bioidentical hormones that may scoff at what I say, but this has been my experience. Homeopathic remedies can work really well. Homeopathies are just meant to bring you into your own natural balance. So I never see women's levels going too high on a homeopathic when I retest them. It's just bringing them into a normal balance. There are things like rhubarb extract and black cohosh, pomegranate extract. Some of these three can potentially help with hot flashes. Chasteberry, also known as Vitex, can help with your natural progesterone production. Essential oils, but again, there's some essential oils out there that may or may not be beneficial to you, and you can overuse any of these things, and I do see that too. There's something called Pereira Mirifica, Mighty Maca, Passion Flower, and Evening Primrose. So I'm going to look at a few of these, starting with the Pereira Mirifica, which is one you probably haven't heard of. There's only a couple brands of this out there that I'd even recommend, because there are a lot of knockoffs of this that are of poor quality. So one of those that I'd recommend is Maca, and this was developed by Dr. Christiane Northrup. Basically, Pereira Mirifica, as you can see here, women who have had menopause symptoms forever, for hundreds of years, would often use this root or this plant to help with their menopausal symptoms. For more than 700 years, women in Southeast Asia have used this root of this Pereira Mirifica plant to alleviate symptoms of menopause and restore their youth and vitality. Pereira Mirifica continues to show promise as an alternative to hormone replacement therapy. Moreover, the plant has been proven to be safe. A 2007 study published in the Journal of Medical Association of Thailand concluded that this root herb is relatively safe and preliminarily alleviates climacteric symptoms, which is menopausal symptoms. So the only brand I mentioned that I'd recommend is the one by Dr. Christiane Northrup. There's another brand out there called Phytogen by Solgar. That's the only other one that I'd recommend. But again, get your hormone levels checked first. Mighty Maca, I frequently recommend this to my patients, probably first and foremost. It also can be used in men. It's a great root, super root that grows in the high Andes of Peru, and was used by the ancient Incas as both a food and a medicine. I particularly like the Mighty Maca, and I have a link there. If you go to that link, you can also find a link to this product on our menopausesisters.com/products, and you scroll down, you'll find the Mighty Maca, and you can click on the link. But I frequently recommend this to women because it can help with mood and energy and libido, and possibly even fertility. In fact, this was developed by Dr. Anna Kabaka, and when she went on a soul-searching mission in her own life due to tragedy, she came across this, and after she started it, she was able to conceive again and have another child. So this is a great one for you, and it's got a lot of healthy antioxidants in it. You can buy various macas over the counter that may be a little bit cheaper, but I caution you, because the purity, the potency, and the quality of some of those products may not be there. I just feel this maca is great, and it's something you could take every day. Then let's look at passion flower and evening primrose. So passion flower can help with anxiety. And anxiety and being stressed can trigger certainly a hot flash, but it also helps increase gamma butyric acid levels in the brain, which is very interesting. So gamma butyric acid, or GABA, when it's too low, can cause insomnia and anxiety. That's why early I recommended drinking passion flower tea for sleep, because it could really help with this. Then evening primrose is an essential fatty acid that can help regulate estrogen and has a cooling and calming effect. So again, this is a nice addition. However, like I said with any of this, knowing your hormones is the first place to start. Then you're not guessing, you're testing. Okay, earlier I told you about my 30-day challenge to thriving and surviving menopause. This is my baby here, and I'm very passionate about you and about your healing. And that is why I developed this program, because I want you to have some tools to be empowered, to empower your feminine power, to be in control of your health and your well-being. In this program, you're going to discover the strategies to help slow down the weight gain, increase your energy, alleviate your hot flashes, and get off the emotional roller coaster, promote better sleep, and rediscover your sex drive. I have so many bonus for you in this program that help support the program and help support you. And I would love for you to share your stories with us at Menopause Sisters. We have a Facebook group called Menopause Sisterhood, which you certainly can ask to join. And I give you access to that in this program. Also, the one exciting part of this program, as you go through it, you're actually going to develop your own menopause survivor guide. So you can start thriving rather than just surviving menopause. And you can take this at your own pace. Now, though it says menopause, this is for all the women out there in perimenopause. And like I said, that can happen as early as the age of 35 on up. So don't think that you have to be in your 50s and 60s to take this program. No, I would encourage you, if you are 35 or older particularly, or you had a surgical menopause, this program is for you. If you're having any of these symptoms, low energy, hot flashes, decreased libido, sleep issues, this program is for you as well. So what you will learn when you start the 30-day challenge to thriving and surviving menopause. So let me go over that with you now. Basically, this program is set up for you to do over 4 weeks, but you can go faster or slower if you like. Contained within the program are audio MP3s to support and educate you on your 30-day challenge. You're also going to receive the Menopause and Your Hormones, Understanding What is Happening, where I go into more detail about what is going on hormonally and how that contributes to your symptoms. I go into deeper detail over the 6 root causes that I shared with you earlier and give you steps you can take to help working on each aspect of those root causes. You're going to have a Menopause Survivor Guide workbook that you're going to complete as you go through the program. And I have a huge resource on testing, various tests that you can use to help guide your healing. And it will also, there's going to be tests in there that you can do on your own and some that you're going to need to get through a health practitioner. Ideally, you have somebody helping you along the way, but there is so much within this program that you will definitely receive benefit from it. You're going to get the Menopause Defined handout, and also you're going to develop, as I said, your own My Menopause Survivor Guide. This is your personal survivor guide that you will complete during the course of the program. So if you are ready to feel more alive, have more energy, happiness, get rid of those hot flashes, and reclaim your hormone balance once and for all, then it is time for you to join the 30-day challenge to thriving and surviving menopause with my special offer today for only $97. Now this says special today only for $97. You have 48 hours to go in and get this program. So I would encourage you to do that, because after all, that's a small investment. Think about how much you've maybe spent going to doctor's visits and spending money on copays and antidepressants, and you still don't feel any better. Or trying different diets and you don't feel any better. Or working with a personal trainer and you still don't feel any better. Isn't it time to be in control of the situation instead of feeling like you have no control? This is a great place to start. Before I go, I want to leave you with one other statement. Oh, I probably should back up a little bit and tell you where you can get this. That would be helpful. So to get this program, you can go to menopausesisters.com/products, and you will see a link there. So that would be one place you can go to get this. Now, before I go, as I said, I want to leave you with this last quote. It is good to have an end to journey towards, but it is the journey that matters in the end. We are all on a journey in life. We are always learning and growing. So I hope that this helps you on your journey through life to feel a little better, be in more control of your own destiny. And if you have any questions, you can certainly head on over to our Menopause Sisterhood Facebook group, post them there. We're in there frequently. And, you know, your question is someone else's question, and we can learn from each other. So I hope that this helped you. And again, I would encourage you to head on over to menopausesisters.com/products and click on the link there to learn more about the 30-day challenge to thriving and surviving menopause. It's time to be in control of your own health and not feel like you're going crazy. I want you to embody your feminine power. You just need the tools to know how to get there. Have a great day and take care.